What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Broadway Joel, the voice of Dominican boxing. Today we got an interesting show, something a little bit different than what I usually do. One, I'm usually speaking in Spanish, so let's start there. And second, is I'm usually talking about Dominican boxing. Today we just talk about boxing in general. Currently, the California State Athletic Commission held a public hearing where they voted 6-0 in favor of the new Muhammad Ali American Revival Act, uh, where this is something that Dana White and Turkey Al Sheikh is pushing onto the boxing scene to create their leagues that they're trying to create. And I'm not, I'm not a lawyer. I'm not a lawyer, so I can't like when people ask me my opinion and what are this and what is this good for boxing? Now this is terrible. I'll be honest with you. I'm not 100% sure whether it's good or bad. I will say this. Uh, uh, you know, New things in boxing are something I like to explore. I do think that the system before this was broken. I'm not saying this was broken. Let's just be clear, because from what I understand, a lot of journalists and people in the boxing industry are very upset that this got passed. So, they know more than me. I'm humble enough to say I don't know enough, So I'm bringing on an expert. I'm bringing on a lawyer, Kurt Emhoff of Boxing Esquire. This guy has been involved with boxing for a long time. I had a boxing conversation with him. He's almost like a boxing historian. He knows about fighters from back in the days and all that. And I want him to explain it to me from a lawyer's perspective as far as what is going on. And I think this is something not only important for me, but important for the public. It's important for me as, a person who does boxing content to understand what the boxing laws are, how the changes, how they can benefit or disrupt or be bad for boxing. I need to know this with anticipation. And I think having on a lawyer who's done boxing deals in the past is the way to go, to be honest with you. So I'm truly excited for this. He said he was going to be a few minutes late, so this is life, baby. It's ups, downs, twists, turns. So he said he's going to be about 5-10 minutes late. So in the meanwhile, I'll sit here and vibe out with you guys. But if you guys want to comment in the comment section what you think of the situation as far as with Turkey Al Sheikh, with Dana White, with the Ali Act, maybe you guys are a little bit more hip as to what's going on than I am. I'm not, again, I mentioned I'm not a lawyer. I don't pretend to be. I'm the interview guy. When people say, "Oh, you got this prediction wrong," or "Oh man, you don't know this law," I'm like, I'm the interview guy. I interview fighters. Now, if one of my interviews was whack, then you could call me out on that. If I came unprepared for an interview, call me out on that. But for this, the law stuff like that, that's not my field. So I'd rather have on an expert and talk, go back and forth with them. But if you guys know about it, write in the comment section your opinion. I truly am curious as to what you guys got to say. One thing that I will ask, because I genuinely don't know, is uh does this open it up for boxing to possibly be monopolized? We see what Turkey Al Sheikh is doing. Yo, Turkey Al Sheikh is taking huge events, important fights to Saudi Arabia. To be fair, a lot of these fights wouldn't have been made if he wasn't involved. So let's be fair to that. Better Biev and Bivol were undefeated champions in the same division for like 7 years. And it wasn't until Turkey Al Sheikh got involved in boxing and they fought twice back to back. Same thing with Usyk Fury. Well, not the same exact thing, but I'm not sure that fight would have been able to happen without Turkey Al Sheikh. So he took it to his country. So there's also that, but then there's other fights where we would have preferred they be in Madison Square Garden, in Atlantic City, and in Las Vegas, and Miami, and in LA, and Texas. You know what I'm saying? So I'm curious as to if this gets passed and Turkey has his own league with his own belt, and he's really the only one right now doing big shows, paying big money. Is he going to be able to monopolize the game? Also, where does that leave the sanctioning bodies? Are the sanctioning bodies now in trouble? Are they going to go out of business? Are they going to be struggling? I don't know. I don't know the answers to these questions, which is why I'm having on an expert to talk about this. Yeah. But one of the things that I did find interesting as far as the new Muhammad Ali Revival Act, I know it's a long thing, but that's what it's called, is includes they trying to include a minimum pay for boxers, which I think is good. You know, that's good. Meaning the minimum you're gonna get paid is a certain amount. That's good. They also talk about trying to create a standard drug testing amongst all commissions. There were some things about health benefits that when I was reading, I wasn't quite understanding if they only have health benefits while they fight for the promotional company was only per fight, or if this is something that they can have after they retire. Also, is there a pension? Like I want to know what he knows that, and I know that has nothing to do with the bill they're trying to pass, but maybe he has some let's say background info on what these fighters could benefit from, as far as from this new leagues, really, because it's two leagues, it's TKO and it's Zuffa boxing. It's two leagues trying to get involved in boxing. um let's see what he knows, and let's see, because there's a lot of interesting things, and I'm not saying this is all good, but as y'all know, not all the times is everything all bad. Not all the times is everything all bad. So maybe some things I may be innocent to, he can help explain, like, no, 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 that is a bad thing. You think is a good thing, but break it down, this, that. I definitely want to get this is more this is one of the parts where it's entertaining to be a content creator, because I'm genuinely curious, right, about the answers to this. And I'm gonna have this guy on, and this is content for you guys, and you guys are gonna be entertained and getting informed, and I'm gonna be entertained getting informed here. And this will be some views on my channel or whatever, some super chats and all this. So this is one of the dope parts of being the voice of Dominican boxing, if you for lack of a better term. But yeah, no. One of the things that I find curious too is, can the fighters now start a union? There's always been talk about boxers starting a union. Oh, the boxers need to unionize. The boxers need to unionize. And it's kind of hard to unionize when there's no commissioner. You know what I'm saying? Like in the NFL, there's an NFL union, but they go against the commission. But if the boxers of now was to unionize, like who everybody works for different promoters in different countries and different rules, and this guys fights at this sanctioning body, this guys fights at that sanctioning body. So it makes a lot of like unionizing difficult. Can the fighters more easily unionize fighting under a league? Because then the league is going to have a CEO or a commissioner or whatever that you can unionize against, where you can, we're unionizing as boxers to get paid X amount, to get life insurance, to get health insurance, to get a pension, to get a 401k matching, or, 457s and all types of shit that you can ask for when you unionize. Um, is it more feasible now that, oh, hold on, enough of me speculating. I got the guy right here. How you doing, Kurt?
Doing good. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I hear you fine. Hear you fine. Thank you so much for coming on the show. I truly appreciate it.
No
Hello, you here?
worries, man. No worries.
All right, all
It's
right.
great
Let
meeting
me.
you. The other week.
Yeah, definitely was. We spoke. What I like about it is we spoke about doing content. You coming on my show, me possibly going on your show, and we're not just talking about it. We're doing it. Here we are. There's a lot going on. There's a lot going on currently with this new Muhammad Ali American Revival Act that I definitely want to get into. And I want you to further explain because this isn't my field. I'm the interview guy. I'm not the lawyer guy. So I kind of I had to bring you in. But before we get into that, could we discuss your credentials in boxing? Like what have you done with your lawyer? Because you're a lawyer, right?
Yes,
Hello.
I am.
All right. So what are your
Yeah, can you hear
credentials
me?
in boxing? Yeah, I can hear you. In terms of boxing, what are your credentials as a lawyer?
Okay, so I used to be a licensed manager. In fact, I was a licensed boxing manager before I was a licensed to practice law. So,
Hmm.
um, I started managing fighters while I was in law school. I had worked with local fighters Terry Sutherland and Levan Easley back in the 90s. And then they their careers didn't quite go to the top. So I ended up writing for one of the very early websites that was covering boxing. It's called Boxing Press, and they were bought out by Seconds Out, which I think is still in existence today. British site. And I was writing for them, and there weren't a lot of websites, so a lot of people were reading the articles, and just so happened a world-class fighter read one that I wrote about Don King. He was having problems with Don King. So Tehran Millette, contacted me, said, "Oh, you're a lawyer. I need some legal help." So I started representing Tehran, and we ended up suing the IBF because he'd been stripped of his title. He felt it wasn't justified. And it was a whole kerfuffle. They ended up kind of giving him a champion in recess designation, and he got a shot at Zab Judah, who won the vacant title once he got stripped. So we ended up kind of working that out. But I worked with Tehran Millette, and through Tehran Millette, who was a St. Louis fighter, I started working with Corey Spinks, who at the time had just lost his title shot in Italy against Michele Piccirillo. I worked with Kevin Cunningham. We helped get him, a mandatory, got him right back in the mandatory position, got him into an eliminator. He won it. He went back. He beat Piccirillo in a rematch. Then he upset Mayorga, so he became like the undisputed welterweight champ, lineal champ. Worked with Travis Sims, who won a piece of the 2 times won a piece of the he won the WBA junior middleweight title. Worked with Louis Collazo, who won the WBA, I think, welterweight title.
Yeah, he did.
Kermit Cintron, 2-time IBF welterweight champ. I worked with him. I had a management piece of him for a little while, but then I worked with him as an attorney kind of throughout his career. Who else? Smoke Gainer I worked with. Took him over to Asia right after he had lost a unification fight. I took him over to challenge for the title again against Chris John. Sam Solomon, Paulie Malignaggi.
Right. So
Work
so
with
you
those
you got a
guys. So
lot of experience
basically,
in boxing.
yeah, I've over 10. I can't even count the number of world champs I work with. A lot.
Okay. All right. Good. I just wanted to, for people who didn't know you, just to get an idea as to who you are and why I felt the need to bring you on to explain this, for the viewers. So
Got it.
there's this new Muhammad Ali American Revival Act, this new bill they're trying to pass. Uh, from what I understand, you can correct me if I'm wrong. This isn't facts. This is from what I understand of what they're trying to propose. They're trying to propose basically they want to be able to make their own league that has their own belt, that has their own ranking system. I also read that they want to include a minimum pay for boxers, a standard drug testing across all commissions, and that the old Ali Act won't be repealed. And this is just something that'll work coincide that. So, can you further explain to me what I said was correct, what was wrong, what could be good, or just could you break that down for me, please?
Yeah, I mean, everything you said was correct. I mean, it's basically they want to I mean, just to put it in a nutshell, they want to recreate the UFC in boxing, where the promoter also is the sanctioning body in essence, because they issue their own titles, right? Which you can't do in boxing currently. You can't do it under the Ali Act. I mean, Dana White pretty much admitted that. He did an interview with Dan Rafael a couple months ago where he basically said, yeah, we'd be violating federal law if we did it. We did boxing the way we're doing it in the UFC. So they need some sort of change in the legislation in order to operate like the UFC in boxing, where the promoter controls the title, does the ratings, pretty much is its own self-contained unit. So they proposed this thing where they're not changing the Ali Act, but they're coming up with an alternative way to comply with the Ali Act, and that's by meeting the criteria of this UBO, which is this different entity that they've come up with, which basically fits like all of the criteria. It fits like you basically have to be the UFC, in order to do this thing, to be a unified boxing organization. You have to have a fitness center. You have to, have insurance for the fighters, even when they're training, which is something the UFC does. So it's basically a piece of legislation that's tailored for one organization, and that's the UFC, to come in and come into the sport of boxing and operate as they do in MMA, where they control everything, the title, the ratings, and promote all the shows. But still not, they're basically not going to have to comply with the Ali Act, which really doesn't allow for, I mean, it's not so explicit that it says you can't be a promoter who has titles, but there's language in it that you could interpret. So, this thing is basically an end around the Ali Act, so they wouldn't have to, I mean, the biggest thing is disclosures. They wouldn't have to disclose how much money they're making on each card to the fighters. And, I mean, there's a couple of other things too that in taking options. I mean, if you have everybody under contract, I don't know that the options thing really comes into play, but it's definitely a piece of legislation that's tailored for one organization to take advantage of and not have to comply with the Ali Act, which was written, to right some of the wrongs in the sport and to be a really pro-fighter piece of legislation.
Oh, so what is exactly endangering boxing? How will this negatively affect boxing? I haven't heard any like smoking gun as to, oh my God, that's gonna do that. I haven't heard anything. And excuse my ignorance again. I'm asking because I don't know. From what I understand, there's been a lot of outcry from knowledgeable people, but there hasn't been quite an explanation as to why there should be an outcry. Why should there be an outcry that this bill is trying to be passed?
I think it's tailored. I mean, it's funny, the guys from the MMAFA were at the ABC, the Association of Boxing Commissions, and they did a presentation. They basically said, if Don King was going to the Congress with this bill saying that he wants to be exempt from the Ali Act, would you guys be going nuts? I think you would be. Dana White is in what you've seen go on in the UFC. You see that fighters have, I mean, they filed a class action lawsuit and got a settlement of nearly $400 million because, the judge was pretty much, he certified the class, he denied summary judgment. Like, this was going to go to trial, and, they could have given up even more in damages to that. But the fact that the UFC had to pay out almost $400 million to their fighters. I mean, you look at what leagues have paid out, other major leagues. I mean, that's a huge, huge, huge settlement. So, what people are afraid of is that Dana White and the UFC are now a part of TKO, which is a very big organization with a lot of tentacles, a lot of connections with television networks. They also clearly have the support of Turki Al-Sheikh. He really likes Dana White. So, what they're going to come out with, this boxing league, I mean, honestly, it's going to be populated with fighters who aren't signed to major promoters. They're mostly just prospects. It's really going to be about on the level of like a Friday Night Fights used to be. So I don't think that's what people are afraid of. It's more the long game. You have TKO, this very powerful organization that has a lot of connects. They're able to get a TV deal for this league that, is presenting boxing kind of on, the trip, for lack of a better word, AAA boxing, kind of not the major leagues, not world championship boxing, but prospects fighting each other. And you've got Top Rank and PBC out there with rosters full of champions and world-class fighters. They can't get a TV deal, right? So the fear is that once Dana White gets his hooks into this thing and allies with Turki Al-Sheikh, that he's going to start pushing promoters out of business like he did in MMA and basically take over the sport, right? And basically they'll be able to do it, with this act, by getting it enacted. They won't have to comply with the Ali Act and all the pro fighter things that John McCain put in there, and that the rest of the promoters in the sport have to comply with. So that's kind of the outcry. Like, they're going to be treated special because of this legislation, and it's going to give them like a competitive advantage, kind of. And now they've got a TV deal. The only real major, Golden Boy has a deal with DAZN, but Top Rank, PBC possibly won't have deals by end of the year. So that's kind of what people are afraid of. These guys are getting their hooks in the sport. We saw what they did in MMA. They put other promoters out of business. They underpay the fighters. That's kind of, that's what people are worried about. It's not so much this legislation, although this legislation, again, it gives them preferential treatment. They don't have to comply with the federal law that all the other promoters in the sport pretty much have to comply with. And it also allows them the opportunity to monopolize the sport like they did in MMA. So that's really what people are worried about.
Okay, so basically the biggest worry is them building a monopoly. Is
yes,
basically what
absolutely.
Okay, all right. So with the original Muhammad Ali Act, fighters had access to the funds, the money going in, money going out, how much everything. Will this Muhammad Ali Revival Act impede that? Would that get in the way of it?
It states in the act that it's an alternative way to comply with the Ali Act, and it really, it basically just sets out criteria that the UFC already has. So they don't have to comply with the Ali Act. They don't have to, they're not going to have to do the disclosures. They're not going to have to, there's other things. There's a firewall between promoters and managers. The bottom line is a lot of this, like the firewall between promoters and managers, that's in a lot of the state regulations. So I don't see them really doing that kind of stuff where they both manage and promote the fighter. I don't even think they do that in the UFC. So I don't think that's so much a worry, but it's more them controlling the titles. Like, They
Yeah.
don't have to compete with any other promoters. It's a closed shop, and if they're the only one with a TV deal and they're the only one paying fighters anything, then their chances of getting a monopoly, or certainly here in the States, go up quite a bit. So they don't have to compete. They can have
Well,
their own little world.
there's always been talk. Now, I don't want to say talk. There's always been mentioned that boxers should unionize, because to be protected and this and that. Does a league potentially happening create an opening now for a union? Because now, if everybody's under the same banner, you're unioning against a singular company. Is that something that's been discussed or talked about, or have you heard anything regarding that?
I mean, only in theory, right? Because they haven't even started this league. We don't even know which fighters are in it. We don't even know if they have enough fighters to do it.
True.
So, I mean, potentially yes, but you would think, it could have happened in the UFC too, right? I mean, the UFC's been around and pretty much been a monopoly, and they have like 600 fighters or something, or even more under contract. Like, they really have a monopoly of the top end of the sport, and those fighters haven't organized. Luckily, they had the MMA FA, Rob Macy and those guys actually looking out for them and filing a class action lawsuit that got them some money. But yeah, I mean, once if there's a closed league, I mean, that has been the problem with unionization in the past for boxing, is that okay, you want to form a union, but you have to be employed by somebody. And was there going to be a top rank fighters union? Is there going to be a PBC fighters union? Is there going to be a Golden Boy fighters union? There have been attempts in the past. I know in Britain they had a couple of times they've tried to form a union. It's just not easy because fighters are all spread out, and you're asking them to pay dues and to put some money up front and put money away for the future. And it's just never, for whatever reason, in combat sports, we've just never had a union, either in boxing or MMA. And I'm not aware of one in professional wrestling either. I mean, there may be one, but I'm not aware of it.
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about managers. You brought up managers. From what I understand, the pay is going to be slotted. So if you're an unranked fighter, you'll get paid 15,000, 5 to 10. If you're ranked 5 to 10, you'll get paid 50, and so on and so forth. There's different slots. What is the role of a manager at that point then? If you're slotted in, for what you're going to get paid, what's the role of a manager? How are managers going to get affected?
It's a really good question. I mean, that's the big difference between MMA, or UFC, I should say, and boxing. The custom and practice in boxing is when you sign a promotional agreement, the money that's in there that's promised, those are minimum purses. Like, you negotiate every fight. What you negotiate for the promotional agreement is the floor for what fighters get paid. Like, all right, you fight on, at least how I did it, you fight on TV on a certain network, you fight in a co-feature, there's a minimum that's in the contract you want in there. If you fight in the main event, if you fight for a title, this and that, you fight off TV, you want to put those minimums in there so that you're not getting paid $100 a round, and the promoter's not breaching the contract. Like, you want to put solid minimums in there so your guy's getting compensated fairly. With this, yeah, I mean, the UFC doesn't do it that way. They say, okay, first fight under the contract, you're getting paid this. Doesn't matter who you're fighting, you're getting paid this. Second fight, if you win, you're getting paid this. Third fight, you're getting paid this. That's how they have it set up in this thing. So, with managers, what is their role? I mean, if there's no negotiation, that takes a lot of their responsibility out of it. I mean, And I don't think you're really going to have a choice of, I mean, maybe you can turn down opponents, but, I'm sure if you turn down opponents, like in the UFC, if you turn down opponents, you sit. So, um, you know, uh, it definitely diminishes the influence of managers if there's no purse to negotiate, and these guys are controlling everything. And once you're locked in, you're not going to be fighting other promoters' fighters. Like, there's a pool of fighters in this league, and those are the guys. That's the pool of opponents there is to choose from. There's no picking opponents.
Yeah, and what worries me in particular is how this is gonna affect Dominican boxers. I should just say international boxers. Usually, the manager is the guy who invests in bringing him and making sure he has a home, and and feeding him, and make sure he has training and proper training and all that. And the hope is to get a payout at the end. But if you're now putting me in a position where I'm only going to get paid certain slots, and also, like, there is no negotiating to it, the developmental process for a manager is not going to be worth his investment. So there'll be less investment in international fighters. So that's something I thought of when I heard that. It's like, well, if we're taking out the manager, what really we're doing is we're taking out the lifeline from immigrant boxers who come to America, who need to get their feet settled before they're living on their own, paying their own bills, and then paying for their own training and all that. They kind of need that first 3 to 4 years of getting settled in by a manager. Is that something that you've thought of?
Yeah, I mean, listen, that's gonna, managers take a chance, right? I mean, you put your money into a kid. Maybe he was a really good amateur. If he was on the Dominican Olympic team. I mean, I managed a kid who was on a Dominican Olympic team for many years.
Who was this?
From the 2000 Olympics, Giovanni Lorenzo.
Oh yeah, you managed him. Did he ever become the IBF champion? I know he fought for it.
He lost a split decision to Sebastian Sylvester. Yeah, he fought for the middleweight title, or like a regular middleweight title. I mean, he fought 3 times for the title. We got him 3 shots at the title, and wasn't able to pull it off. But I mean, you're going to take a chance. I mean, here's the thing though, with this league, like right now, there's really not a lot happening on that AAA level, right? I mean, and even on the club level, I mean, it's really difficult out there because there's no TV. Nobody's got a TV outlet to go to other than DAZN. And DAZN's really not paying much, for these smaller promoters. I mean, I think some of them have deals where they're getting some money, but from what I heard, some of them aren't even getting a dime. So, developing a fighter, period, is difficult. Getting the P1 and bringing someone over and supporting them, and I mean, it's very different. Like when I brought when Richie Ryan, who was my co-manager, and I brought Giovanni over, like we wouldn't have done that unless we had a deal with Main Events. Like he signed with Main Events, and so we knew he had fights, and that we were going to be able to bring him up the right way. If nowadays, if you can't get your guy signed to a major promoter who has a network deal, good luck. It's foreign fighters, it's domestic fighters too. Unless, I mean, even now, like Top Rank, they have been signing fighters. They still don't have a television deal, and PBC, I don't know if they're signing any new fighters. So it's a really challenging time in U.S. boxing. But and I hear people in Britain complaining too. That the club shows are getting killed, the domestic shows. I mean, all the big fights are going to Saudi Arabia. So and there's like a trickle down effect where the British attractions aren't being seen in Britain, so it's not really raising the profile of the sport in Britain. So So yeah, man, it's a really weird time in boxing. Really weird time.
I have here Juan De Lo Mio who sends a $5 super chat. He says the sanctioning bodies and promoters killed the sport. They kind of asked for this to happen. Dana and Turkey have powerhouse executives. Done deal. Well, what do you? That's a good point though. What do you say to that? Like me and you, we both been involved in boxing for quite a while. We've seen how sanctioning bodies have done absolute clown shows. Promoters have not made fights that fans want to see, and quite honestly, at times I've literally heard. I'm not going to mention names. Literally heard fighters or promoters when they're being asked about why they're making a fight that's uncompetitive. The response is, "Hey, just don't buy the pay-per-view if you don't like it." Kind of like just totally mistreating the fans. What is your response to saying, "Hey, well, something has to get done. What you guys are doing are obviously not working."
Yeah, I mean, I don't disagree with with the points he makes, which is really sad. I mean, as someone who's been advocating for a league in boxing, I mean, all the way back in 2017, 2018, I wrote this long ass article about now's the time. Like there, you had the Zone in, you had Showtime, you had Fox, you had all these U.S. networks. There was never more money ESPN. There was never more money in boxing. And I was just like, now is the freaking time. You guys need to form a league like every other sport. We need a regular schedule. We need one champion. We need big events every month, if not every week. And it can be done. There's enough fighters to make great fights, one great fight every week, right? But, it's exactly right. Like promoters just will not do that. There's not the vision, right? No one wants to work collectively. No one believes that the whole is, like the whole is greater than the sum of its parts. Everybody wanted to get their own TV deal. Everybody, and I get that you have a business, you got to look out for it. You're gonna try and make the best deal for your business as you can, but it was just all very short-sighted. And now, you've got Top Rank on the outs. Which to me, in all honesty, though, like, how do these guys? I mean, and I know how these guys got a deal, but like they're putting on. I mean, as much as you want to complain about Top Rank and PBC's fights that they put on and PBC's last year in Showtime, or what Top Rank has been putting out on ESPN, it's going to be higher quality fights and fighters than what this TKO league is going to be. This is going to be like a glorified pro box. I mean, I used to work, I was the attorney and one of the people from Ring City. It's going to be like Ring City.
I think the argument is like, it's going to be like that for now. You know what I'm saying? Like, let's work our way up. First, it'll be like a pro box, like a Friday night fights, a show box. And it'll work its way up until it's like kind of like a boxing after dark, until it's something like legit, like championship fights. And I just, it can both coexist. Can Dana White and Turkey do their thing on their side, and boxing with the sanctioning bodies do their thing on their side? Can they coexist and both be successful and both not hurt the sport?
We'll see, right? I mean, what this thing is adding is yet another title to the sport, yet another person calling themselves champion. I don't know that really helps the sport, but yeah, I mean, obviously their long game, like you said, is like, okay, we're going to have this league, and Turkey was the one who came up with. I mean, this is all Turkey. Like, really, I mean, TKO and Dana White, they're doing the bare minimum here, right? like. They're not putting it, I loved how Dana said he's like, oh, boxing never invests in the sport. It never invests in the sport. How much money are you guys putting in? Zero, right? This is all Turkey's money. They're getting paid, what, $10 million a year to oversee it, but they're not, they've admitted they're not putting a dime into this thing. So, but it's the long game, right? Like, if they they're the only one who has a TV deal, then fighters have to come to them, right? And if Top Rank, can't find a TV deal, they can't hold on to all their fighters. The PBC can't find a TV deal, their fighters are eventually going to leave them. I mean, you looked on, I don't know if you watched that Netflix documentary where Eddie Hearn and his dad, I don't know if it was all for show, but they're basically talking about selling their company to Turkey, or at least a significant piece of Matchroom to Turkey.
I think they recently sold like 17% of it or something like that. Or
Okay.
I think I might have read. I don't remember the exact details, but I feel like I read that somewhere.
Yeah, I know they were looking for investors. I don't know who it was. I mean, they were making like they were trying to make a deal with Turkey. I don't know if that was for effect on TV, if it was for real or not. But yeah, so if what you would worry about is if you're a promoter in the sport, if you're the sanctioning bodies in the sport, is that the guy who everybody's kind of being drawn towards, who's got the money, who's got the candy, Turkey Al-Sheikh, his idea is, I want a league. He put that out there a year or two ago. It was in the New York Times. He hired consultants to come up with the idea. He wants a league. He put money into Top Rank. He put money into Golden Boy. He put money into Queensberry. He put money into Matchroom. And I think the idea was to get them to join the league. They've messed around with it. They haven't, obviously Top Rank, PBC haven't bought into it.
Okay. All right.
So you can't have a league unless you got everybody, So right now they said, you know what, let's start small. Let's do like a league that's AAA. And if it becomes really popular and all these other promoters flame out with all these, titles and being on DAZN, which nobody watches, maybe we'll play the long game here. And see if these guys, if we can put these guys out of business like we did in MMA, and basically take their fighters and suddenly now you've got Major League Boxing instead of AAA. So I would assume that's the game plan. May work out, may not. It depends. I mean, how long is Turkey Al-Sheikh going to be in the sport? How long are they going to lose money? On all these sports that they're spending all this money on. So. A lot of questions. Future's it's uncertain. This is another wild card thrown in. We've seen it before. Triller came in and caused, a kerfuffle, and they were going to do things and revolutionize the sport and all that. Seems like every couple of years somebody comes in with these ideas. And the fact that TKO is putting no money into it, how committed are they? So, they just want a little boxing as part of their brand. I mean, how deep they want to get into it, we'll see.
What do you say to that this modernizes boxing, like in the sense because they want to introduce like certain, like across all standard types of drug testing, how this is more like a cleaner, clearer business model? Because I feel like to be in boxing you need to be a lawyer. Just how many this and interims and regulars and mandatories and people getting stripped and rankings, and how there's different rankings for systems and there's intercontinental belts, and it's so complicated. What do you say that this is a way of modernizing boxing to the 21st century, essentially?
I mean, drug testing, I don't think there's anyone who's not for drug testing in the sport. I mean, if there's any sport that really needs stringent drug testing, it's boxing. It's not hitting a baseball. It's not, throwing a ball through a hoop. It's hitting someone else in the head, So, more drug testing, better. I mean, we'll see. I mean, the UFC's had, some controversy with their drug testing in the past, whether it was on the up and up or not. It's never perfect, right? I mean, you look at the major sports, they don't really test their guys every week. They, you can poke holes in anyone's drug testing, but if there is like, serious out of competition drug testing and it's year round and it's more than, just, once or twice a year, I'm all for it. I'm all for it. I mean, that's great. If that could be a model for the sport, let's bring that on. In terms of having a league, one champion, and all that, I've like I said, I've been in the sport probably since the 90s. I've been following the sport since the early 70s. Yeah, I mean, boxing has so missed the boat, and just the fact that there isn't a league where all the top fighters are fighting on a regular basis with one champion, one set of rules for everybody. Every other sport has it like that. They have playoffs, they have Grand Slam tournaments, they have TV deals. They have a deliverable to TV. Steven Espinoza used to talk about this all the time. If we had a unified sport, I could go to advertising company. If I had this to deliver and deliver on the cheap, which boxing generally is compared to other sports, and what we can deliver audience wise for Major League Boxing, if it wasn't on pay-per-view, if it was on a regular network, the sport has so much potential if it got its shit together. But do I think Dana White is the right guy to do it? Do I think Turkey's the right guy? I mean, Dana's track record with the UFC and fighter pay is not very good, right? So that should raise some red flags, and but like I said, it's never perfect, right? So you have to kind of wait and see. You have to wait and see, but leopards change their spots.
What is your anticipation? Let's just say tomorrow the Muhammad Ali American Revival Act gets passed. What would this do to boxing?
I mean, it really remains to be seen. I mean, the Ali Act itself didn't really revolutionize the sport, right? I mean, it definitely improved things, marginally. I mean, as someone who managed fighters, it definitely made a difference for me. I mean, with the disclosure part of it, definitely helped put me on a more level playing field in negotiating on behalf of fighters with promoters. Being able to challenge ratings, and have the sanctioning bodies actually have to respond to you because it's the federal law. I've definitely been able to help fighters out challenging ratings, having number one contenders not have to give up 3 years of options to get a title shot and not allow promoters to control the titles. That's a big deal. But having one organization out there that's going to put on, good fights. I'm sure that, it's going to be undefeated guys, prospects who decent, fighting each other. I'm a boxing fan. I'm going to watch it, but is it going to revolutionize the sport? Who knows?
Right.
Who knows? I mean, I'd be surprised.
Yeah, because listen, again, I'm no lawyer. I don't know laws and stuff like that, and I've only done minimal research. Or I've only done the research today as far as with this. I really don't see too much to not like or to dislike or to maybe that I do concern of being introduced to the fifth belt era. I do have some concern of possibly a monopoly in the sport, but I don't see it going that way. I feel like Top Rank has too much history in the game. Matchroom, they seem pretty well invested in boxing, although yes, they did look for investment from Turkey Al-Sheikh, but I don't think they're quite out of boxing, and I think both can coexist. I was hoping you can maybe even raise my concern a little bit more, but I'm not really hearing much to be concerned about, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's more the reach of TKO that concerns a lot of people, because they were like a talent agency that represented athletes and personalities and so on. So they have a lot of hooks in entertainment and television networks. Now they have a lot of hooks in politics. Trump is a great ally of theirs. Some people would say the UFC would not have gotten anywhere near as big a deal as what they got if not for the federal government kind of helping them out a little bit.
Yeah, and that's what I'm saying. And if you with them, then their connections, their whatever benefits them is also going to benefit you. And also like that's why I was saying, like, can they both coexist? Can the sanctioning bodies coexist with this? I'm pretty sure they can. I'm pretty sure you can fight on Top Rank and fight for the WBC, WBA, and you can fight on TKO for their belt as well. And fight fans and watch both. I don't see too much concern. The only concern I would see is if this TKO becomes so much more popular and they put the other ones out of business because of that, because they have built-in monopoly. But that's going to take time, and that would take the people on the sanctioning body side to keep messing things up. And I think they're going to have to start working together to fight this beast, if it is a beast.
Well, I mean, I think really the person to watch is Turkey Al-Sheikh, because everyone's going to follow the money in the sport, right? I mean, that's just how it goes. So
well, excuse me to cut you off, but he seems to have worked with many promoters. It seems like that's not a problem for him. He's had PBC guys on his shows, he's had Top Rank guys and Matchroom guys on his show. I don't see why he would stop now.
Yes, but you also see a lot of the top fighters no longer associated with the promoter, right? They deal directly with Turkey. Right? I mean, I see Bud doesn't have a promoter. Canelo doesn't have a promoter. Shakur Stevenson doesn't have a promoter. Devin Haney doesn't have a promoter. Teofimo Lopez is trying to get away from Top Rank and not have a promoter. So,
yeah,
a lot of these, I mean, Usyk is pretty much with Turkey at this point. So I think that's a fear on the promoter's part, is that, this guy's pulling the strings, and what does he really need us for? If he and a lot of them are complaining he goes directly to the fighters. He goes around them. So again, it's more projecting what can happen as opposed to what is happening right now. It's that Turkey obviously really likes Dana White and likes doing business with Dana White. So this alliance of Turkey and Dana, and seeing what happened in MMA with fighters, once the competition and other promoters went away, I mean, these guys are, in the UFC, the organization, the promoter takes 80% of the money. The fighters, get the rest. It's kind of the opposite in boxing. It's usually the fighters who are getting 70 to 80% of the income from the event, and the promoters are only getting 20 to 30%. So that's the scary part. That the people who are kind of looking out for the fighters, looking at the sport, they see how the UFC was in MMA, how ruthless they were in getting other organizations, put out of business. And, you're seeing a little bit of it already, right? I mean, Top Rank complained that lawsuit that Keane guy filed just happened to be timed around their renegotiations with ESPN. They're saying this guy had some ties with Nick Khan, who's part of TKO. It's all a little conspiracy theory right now, but you could really see it playing out where if Top Rank doesn't get a deal, who's going to sign with them? And their fighters are going to want to make money, and who's got the money? It's Turkey. So, especially in this country, it's in a really precarious state right now, boxing, right? Like Dana's got a deal on CBS, basically, what was CBS? And Top Rank has nothing, and PBC has nothing. And just 2 years ago, probably, when Showtime was still there and Top Rank was on ESPN, those two organizations had the most fighters in the ratings. They had the best rosters in the sport. And right now they're ass out. They don't have a TV deal. So, and fighters want to make money. And where's the money? It's with Turkey and DAZN right now. So it's a really weird spot. It seems like it's a transition, and we'll see. We'll see how the promoters respond. We'll see if the fighters continue, to try and matriculate to Turkey, the deal directly with Turkey. And we'll see how many fighters Turkey can take on. Not everyone can sign with them. So it's to me, it's very much a sport in transition right now. It's transitioning away from the U.S. It seems, the major events are happening in Saudi. And Dana's just like, all right, well, I'm gonna put my fights in the U.S. I'm putting my flag here. And if Top Rank and PBC can't get deals, it puts them in a very advantageous position.
All right. I read this $2 super chat from Lorenzo Mesa. He says, "Dile al gringo que con lo dominicano no." He says, tell the white guy that to not mess with Dominicans." So that's a saying. That's a saying. Hold on, just for me to explain. That's a saying that we say, like, when they offer you a Dominican, you better say no. It's kind of like, that's kind of like, we dangerous fighters. So he's just playing up on that saying that we have. I have here Juan de lo Mio sends a $5 super chat. He says, Carlos Adames find out the hard way playing games with Turkey. So he's saying basically how Carlos Adames kind of play. I don't know how much you know about the negotiations, playing hardball with the Janibek fight, and now Janibek is fighting Lara, and Adames doesn't have a fight. So that's, it's kind of listen. They say always buy. I don't know if you're a guy who invests in stocks. They always say buy when the company's going down, buy when the company is tanking. And I don't think there's quite an argument. Boxing is on the way down in terms of, we literally have no boxing on TV. There's no way you can make an argument. It's on the upswing. Is this the perfect time to buy in boxing? Or are you very concerned for the future of the sport?
Really depends on what happens here in the States, right? Like Dana White's getting a TV deal. And what's interesting about the UFC's TV deal is they used to have a pay-per-view every month. Now they're not doing pay-per-views at all. And that was like one of the huge complaints about this sport, is that our very best fights are seen by the fewest people, right? Like, we put the best fights on pay-per-view, and you look at every other sport, they don't put the Super Bowl on pay-per-view. They don't put the NBA Finals on pay-per-view. Yeah. They don't put the World Series on pay-per-view. That's for, it's for everybody. And the Super Bowl is the most watched event, in history. You go back in time, Muhammad Ali, the rematch he fought with Leon Spinks, was the second most watched television program in the history of the Nielsen ratings, which date back to the 40s. So it was higher than any World Series, any Super Bowl, any NBA Finals, any sporting event. The only thing that beat it was like the finale of Roots, which was also in the 70s. But the heavyweight championship of the world being on national TV was a big freaking deal, So we've lost that. It moved from network TV to HBO, and then it went from HBO to DAZN, and HBO started the whole pay-per-view thing. Not to say that, fights would be on like closed circuit probably since the 50s. They put like really big fights. They wouldn't put them on national
but
TV.
even then it felt kind of like, well, not that I was around at that time, but it almost felt like an event, like you go into a movie theater watching the fights with a bunch of boxing fans, and it's closed circuit and stuff like that. And I also feel like that with the pay-per-views, it would be one person host, and people would collect money. It was kind of like a party. It felt, at least that's how it felt. But we did just see Canelo Crawford free on Netflix. I mean, not technically not free because you have to have Netflix, but Netflix, who doesn't have Netflix, to be honest with you? So, so it's somewhat changing, to some degree. But man, I really think there's an opportunity for a smart, savvy promoter to get involved in boxing right now. And one of the people that I want to see, and this is the first time I say it on camera, I would love to see Madison Square Garden become a promoter again. Do you remember when they were a promoter?
Of course.
And the reason I say that is they have the building, they have the reputation, the legacy, And they have a network here in New York, MSG, the MSG network, the same network where the Knicks play. So if you could develop a New York following, local fighters, Puerto Rican fighters, Dominican fighters, there's a lot of Puerto Ricans and Dominicans here. So, people, if you're gonna tell them, hey, it's always gonna be here because they're a Madison Square Garden fighter, and you can watch them the same place you watch the Knicks. And you can have a guy from Brooklyn fight a guy from Puerto Rico, a guy from the Bronx fight a guy from Dominican Republic, a guy from Queens find a guy from Manhattan and Westchester, and make it kind of like a local thing, New Jersey, Philly, Connecticut. And I feel like if they got into it like that, where they have everything, they have the network, the building, and the fighters, I feel like that's something that there's an opening for. That's why I mentioned buying at the dip. I feel like boxing's currently at the way down. I feel like if Madison Square Garden got involved in boxing promotion again, and they sign fighters, I think they can get fighters a lot cheaper than they think, and they already have the infrastructure in every way sense of the word.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the hurdle to that now is insurance, right? Like if you're doing small shows, what's killed club boxing in New York, and it's almost non-existent, is that it's so expensive to put it on. I mean, you're paying almost $2,000 a fighter for just for the catastrophic insurance. Not even the health part of it. So it's it's difficult. I absolutely see what you're saying. But you have to build attractions, right? And that takes time, and obviously there are ethnicities in the city that come out for fights, right? Puerto Ricans come out for fights, the Irish come out for fights, the Polish come out for fights, Albanians come out for fights. There's a lot of ethnic groups who love coming out to the fights and cheering their guys on. So there's definitely potential, but it's having those fighters, having those marketing those fighters, and putting the time and the money in, and you're going to lose money initially, so someone's got to be able to take a little pain to get it off the ground. I mean, MSG hasn't had boxing, promoted boxing since the 90s, probably, right?
Yes, it's the 90s about,
fell out.
But I feel like Dolan's a billionaire. And I'm not saying he would lose this amount, but let's say in the first year he loses 20-30 million. That's nothing to a guy like him. And I would even think, and I don't even think he would be taking that much of a loss. It would just be building the infrastructure. And once the infrastructure is built, I feel like it'll be a well-oiled machine. Again, you can do something where you host one show a month. They don't have to be such a large commitment. You keep fighters active in the same building. So let's say me and you go to a fight and we see this middleweight who we like, this guy from the Bronx. Oh, he's going to, he fights today. Oh yeah, he's going to fight again in 2 months. Same building, same price of the ticket. Oh yeah, and we sell season tickets. If you buy, if you pay up front for 10 events, you get 2 free and something like that. You can get creative. And I feel like the buildings, especially buildings that also are associated with networks, were to sign fighters, I feel like that's something, there's a lane there. And Madison Square Garden specifically, considering they have the Hulu theater, the small room, and they have the big room for in case they develop a star who's now outgrown the little room. And and then you can also send your fighter out, send your fighter out to the zone. Oh, he got a better deal over there just to go fight, get that belt, bring it back here. I wish I had context to people on the higher ups in Madison Square Garden so I could pitch these ideas.
Well, you know what? There is someone at the Garden who used to be involved in boxing. Jamal Hussein. He's actually the I think general counsel, maybe even for MSG at this point in time. Jamal used to manage fighters. There's definitely people at the Garden who they'd be willing to listen to the pitch. I don't know. My thing is everything is so expensive. tickets are so expensive to everything. And I mean, I don't even know what it is to rent out the Garden at this point in time. But you're saying the Garden would do it
On
itself.
the
Yeah, you'd
building,
have
if
to.
you own the building, you're not paying you're not
Right.
paying anybody. You're paying yourself. If you own the
You
building, you own the
you'd
promotional
really have
company,
to
you own
be
the network.
organized, and you'd really have to be ready to make an effective pitch, because it would have to
Get
be a
me in touch.
moneymaker. They're not going to do it.
Get me in touch with the people in Madison Square Garden, man. Dominican boxing, the safe boxing in America. If they let me get my hands on that. Yeah,
No,
no,
listen, I mean, there's a lot of money in the city. Obviously, there's a lot of fighters. Listen, Lou DiBella tried to do Broadway boxing for many years, and ultimately it just wasn't profitable enough for him to keep doing it. So it's hard. It's not easy. Cedric Kushner practically went broke trying to build boxing here in the city back in the early 2000s. So it's hard. It's not easy. I don't know how Joe DeGuardia keeps going, man. But he does.
He does a lot of his shows in Long Island. I'm pretty sure it's a
Right.
lot cheaper in Long Island.
Right.
Yeah, no, and I agree. But nothing worth having is easy. So if like you said, you would have to find somebody motivated and organized enough, and with a good plan for execution. But I'm
And you
glad
gotta have the fighters too.
Well, I mean, if you're starting up a promotional company, that's the part. That's the part where it's your job to sign the fighters. You have to figure. Maybe this year you start with 6, 7 shows. Next year you start with 10 shows. The year after that you start with 12 shows, and then after that you kind of have a good sense as to how many shows and how many fighters you need, and what you can and can't deliver, and how the ratings are on MSG, and what needs to be done to promote. I don't know, but I really, really think that that's something where it cuts a lot of the middleman out. You know what I'm saying? If you got the own network, if you own your own network, you imagine if Top Rank owned ESPN, their own network, and then they own the building where they place their fighters, and it's in one of the biggest cities in the biggest city in America. I'm just speaking when you look at it from that context as to, wow, if Top Rank had their own network, they wouldn't have a problem. They're not going to get the rug pulled out from under them, no matter who sues them, because they're their own boss. That's how I look at it.
Right.
But Kurt, I want to first say thank you so much for your time. I truly appreciate you hopping on and answering my questions. Definitely clarified a bunch of things. You definitely got me a lot less nervous about this, because there was before I end the show, there was a public hearing in California where the California State Athletic Commission voted 6-0. Can you explain how that benefits how their push this bill, and what is that? What is this? Good, bad, nothing burger? What is this?
I mean, I don't know what influence, if any, the California State Athletic Commission has with Congress.
Mm-hmm.
I would think it's just a feather in the cap of Zuffa Boxing and TKO that they've got a major commission signed on. So that's a victory for them. I think with the California Commission, they're looking at it just business wise. TKO, like I said, they got a lot of tentacles, they got a lot of parts. Like, they got Power Slap, they got UFC, and, commissions need business in order to justify their existence and pay their employees. So I think at a certain point, UFC wasn't doing a lot of shows in California, and I think they're California's trying to repair that relationship. So I didn't have any doubt really that they were going to support this, no matter how many people got on the phone and yelled at them. So I'm not surprised. Does it really affect what's going to go on in Congress? It's just like a little point in TKO Zuffa Boxing's favor that a major commission is signed on. So, they can go to any hearings on the bill with that. But, is it a huge deal? I don't think so, to be honest with you.
Well, Kurt, Thank you so much for your time. You're more than welcome to come back anytime. But you're definitely now the boxing lawyer on this show now. Anytime I need some clarifications, I
I
got your
appreciate
number.
that official designation, and I accept it. So,
There you
I'm
go.
here
There you go.
anytime, man.
No, I appreciate you. You want to promote anything before I let you go for your channel where people can follow you, how they can support you, anything you want them to do to oppose this act or anything along those lines?
Yeah, listen, I'm not a huge fan of the act. I don't think that people should, that one promoter you don't pass a federal bill to benefit like one business in a massive business like boxing. But they obviously they have a great friend in Donald Trump, and right now it's a Republican House and a Republican Senate. So if this thing ever does hit the floor, it's I don't doubt that it's probably going to pass. So, but yeah, am I in favor of it? No. I think that these guys should have to compete with every other promoter out there on a level playing field. They should have to disclose what they're making. They shouldn't be able to issue a title, and be a promoter. That's a conflict of interest. It's not good for the sport. But you know, uh, I don't want to say it's a fait accompli. That it's just, it's a formality that's going to happen. I'm sure people are going to fight it, and if there enough of the Democrats, don't want to go along with it, and people get in their ears, then they can, make it so it doesn't come to the floor, it doesn't come to a vote. So, so we'll see. But in terms of, my podcast, I've been so lax because, man, I've been super busy at my firm, just doing a lot of legal work. So I haven't put out a podcast in a couple months, but it's the Boxing Esquire podcast, Boxing ESQ period podcast. I talk about the business of the sport. If you're interested in, the bigger picture of things, how what's in the best interest of the sport, how the sport works. I talk to a lot of lawyers in the sport. I talk to a lot of managers. If you go back, got a great podcast with Steve Weisfeld about judging. It's most people say it's more like an educational podcast. So if you go back in the archives, you'll find some really interesting things. I've talked to some of the top managers in the field. And they give their insights on the sport. It's still relatively evergreen. So follow that podcast, listen to it. If you like it, then, send me a line. Maybe I'll get off my ass and start doing it up again.
Hey, listen, been busy. I'm gonna motivate you, man. I need to be on the show. Get me on your show. That'll motivate my fans to check it out. So I hopefully I'm your next guest.
Absolutely, definitely. Once I get a little break, we're gonna do the Broadway Joel. We'll talk about Dominican fighters. I've worked with, I can't even count how many times I've been over to DR recruiting fighters and bringing them to the States and trying to make it happen. So yeah, man, definitely have you on.
My man, thank you so much for your time, and I appreciate you. Until next time, my man.
All right, peace.
Peace. All right, my people. That was Kurt Emhoff from Boxing Esquire. Very educational interview. Definitely something different from what I do, but I definitely hope you guys enjoyed it, got informed. I definitely feel like I'm better informed as I was before. But one thing that I liked is that there wasn't the panic, the break glass pull. It wasn't, oh my God, this is gonna ruin the sport. It was just kind of like, we'll see. Can both exist? Well, we'll see. I mean, he definitely didn't seem like it couldn't. Like, it is like, nah, man, he's gonna end all these promotional coverage. The one thing that he did say that I find interesting is that these promoters don't like that they go straight to the fighters. I wish I would have elaborated a little bit more on that, because I do remember when Jared Anderson took the Bacoli fight, right? And Bob Arum outwardly said, we told Jared, don't take it. So meaning they must have went to him directly and offered him that fight. He ended up taking a fight, ended up getting knocked out, whatever. That part of the story is irrelevant. But you going straight to fighters, that I found interesting. Like, what happens now when these TKO starts offering fights? Oh, in our league, but it's just a one-off. Yeah, come get a taste of how we do things here, how we treat you here. Or when does your contract expire? All right, no, I'm just asking. I'm just asking. I'm just curious. We'll see. Listen, Turkey Al-Sheikh owns Ring Magazine. People go by that as the lineal championship. Like, so, he does, he essentially owns a sanctioning body. Because let's really look at it. Ring Magazine is crowning people as champion, has rankings. The only thing it doesn't do is, I guess, charge sanctioning fees. So he owns that. Now he's going to own a promotional company too, attached with it. I don't know. I don't know. I'm very curious as to how this plays out. I'm not too concerned. He didn't seem too concerned. He didn't say anything that concerned me too much. Sure, there's going to be hiccups on everybody's end, on TKO, on Dana White, on Turkey Al-Sheikh, on Top Rank finding a new deal, and PBC scrambling around putting pay-per-views that shouldn't be pay-per-views and doing this and doing that. There's a lot that's going to be happening. But I think once the dust settles, once everybody gets their bearings, once new players come into the game, I feel like there's been a lack of new players. I feel like we got a lot of old people in boxing. That's why when Eddie Hearn came into boxing, I kind of appreciated it because he's a younger guy bringing, different ideas. Some worked, some didn't. Same thing with Turkey. He brought an event to Times Square, it didn't work, but hey, he tried something. He was talking about doing something in Alcatraz, he's just trying stuff. And there's going to be bumps on the road. So, I like as I was saying to him, I think boxing is the perfect time to buy. Like, if you wanted to become a promoter and you had the funds, and that's why I mentioned Madison Square Garden, and you got the funds, why not? This is the perfect time to buy. If I'm James Dolan and and I have any interest, because you have to have interest, in boxing, and I have interest in boxing, I'm starting a boxing promotional company. And I'm gonna be like, hey, I'm gonna start off with local New Yorkers, local Italian, Polish, Puerto Rican, Dominican that are New Yorkers, and bring these fights here. And we're gonna and fighters who are shown to be big draws in that Hulu theater. All right, well, these 2-3 fighters, they're gonna fight in the big room in Madison Square Garden because they fought in Madison Square Garden 4 times every year for the last 3 years, 4 times a year in Madison Square Garden. So they develop a fan base in New York City so popular that we now got to bring them to the big room in Madison Square Garden. And now we developed our own. And no, the network is not going to leave us because we're the network. And no, the building is going to say, not going to tell us no more boxing because we own the building. And and I also wouldn't close the door as to doing business with other promoters. The same way PBC and Top Rank will send a guy to Riyadh season and he comes back, I would do the same. It don't just because you a Madison Square Garden fighter, I'm not going to withhold big fights. You know what? It does make more sense to do the fight in Las Vegas. You know what? We're going to send you over there to the zone. We're going to send you over here to wherever. Just come back with that title, and now you're in our bubble. You're in our league, essentially. I would still play the sanctioning body game just because, I think that's maybe that's just what I'm used to. That's what I know. You know what I'm saying? I would still play that game, but Ring Magazine putting that as a priority, trying to bring as many Ring Magazine champions to Madison Square Garden, elaborating on the history of it and tying it to Ali and Frazier, and all the legends that's fought there. And you can even tie it back to before when it was on, I believe, 57th Street. You tied into, Sugar Ray Robinson and all these old school guys and Joe Louis that fought there. I think that would be a fucking home run. He says he got connections to Madison Square Garden. I might need an email or two, just to send out my pitch. But we'll see where things go. But guys, make sure y'all hit that like. Matter of fact, I'm gonna throw the link in the chat just in case anybody wants to hop on and chop it up with me, man. Anybody wants to, I'm gonna give you guys 5-10 minutes. If nobody hops on, I'll end the live. But I'll put the link in the chat. Anybody wants to hop on and ask a question, click that link, hop on, and we can have a conversation. You know, it ain't nothing to me. Any questions, concerns, or maybe comments as far as the conversation we had, my idea about Madison Square Garden getting involved, or anything like that. I'm gonna give you guys 5-10 minutes. If you guys nobody hops on, I'll end the live. But in the meanwhile, everybody hit like on this video, please. Yeah. I see people in the chat asking about Edwin De Los Santos. He's gonna fight December 13th in the Dominican Republic. This is gonna be somewhat like a tune-up fight. His brother, who's a former I believe Central American bronze medalist, is going to be on that card as well. They talk about Leonel De Los Santos, also two-time Dominican Olympian, possibly being on the card. Mini Pac-Man making his comeback, possibly. That actually is going to be a stacked card. I'm debating even going to DR. Like that's a legit on the table of happening. Like I might actually go to DR to go cover that fight. Edwin's a big name, and if you got Mini Pac-Man, former world champion on there. I heard Christian Pinales, Olympic bronze medalist, may be on there. So it's gonna be a pretty good card. Not necessarily in terms of competitiveness, but in terms of a lot of names, a lot of prospects. I also want to see how Edwin looks, man. Edwin hasn't fought in how long? Well, it's been 2 years. I'm curious as to how he looks. Last time we seen him on camera, the dude looked like he weighed 100 pounds over over what he usually does. He looked heavy. He looked real heavy, and that's quite a concern for me. We have 2 months from here to his fight. Let's see if he's in the gym training, staying focused, cutting weight. I don't know. But he's been looking big. He's been looking big. Well, hold on. Yo, bro, I'm not a promoter. He says Barboza Jr. versus Edwin. Make it happen, Joel. It's an easy fight to make. Make it happen. I'm not his manager. I'm not his promoter. I'm not. Yo, bro, I don't know how powerful y'all think I am, man. I'm over here asking for emails of guys at Madison Square Garden. I'm not that powerful to make a fight. Hey, but Edwin's a 135 pounder, anyways. I mean, shit. After how heavy he looked, he might fuck around, have to move up. You know what I'm saying? But we'll see what he does. We'll see what he does. Hold on, I got my man Xavier who just hopped on. Oh, get your internet right, bro. Hold on. Get your internet right. But yeah, nah. Oh, all right, there we go. Yo,
What's up, bro? How's everything?
everything is good, man. Talk to me.
Nah, I was just listening to your guys' conversation. The thing is, like, it's actually sad that no fighters called in or like making their voices heard. The only person that I've like really seen speak about a fighters union for boxers is Jake Paul, and that's crazy. Like, the one guy he's really the one guy doing a lot of things for the sport because he's talked about it, helping out with getting them health care and starting a union and all that type of stuff. And he hasn't
No,
talked about it in a minute, but he's one of like the only people doing it.
no, and at first, I'll be honest with you, I looked at him as a clown, as a dude who's out here just doing dumb shit, and I like, yo, the results he's produced and how he's gotten guys a lot more popular, than they would be. Like, look at Amanda Serrano's career. I know Amanda Serrano. I
Yeah.
remember when Amanda Serrano was living in Bushwick, in the hood, training in in a green boxing gym here in Bushwick. World
Uh,
champion, world champion living in Bushwick. Gets with Jake Paul and all of a sudden is making millions in fights. I'm like, nah, this dude is good for the sport. And he also brings a different kind of crowd that would never watch boxing, but now because of him, they're like, oh, I'll watch boxing. You know?
And he's doing a lot of good things for the sport. A lot of people, yeah, some of his fights are, a little what people don't want to see, like the actual boxing fans. But in terms of helping the sport, he is doing it. He's helping women's boxing, and he is advocating for fighters.
Yeah, I don't like that he's fighting Javante. I'll be honest with you. I'm not going to be a hypocrite, but I feel like his good outweighs the bad. His good
Yeah,
outweighs the bad.
I say I'd agree with that.
Yeah,
I mean, of course, on Javante's side, we don't want to see him fight Jake Paul. We want to see him fight. We want to see him fight the best fighters. But
yeah.
the eyes it is gonna bring to the sport, the eyes
Mm-hmm.
it is gonna bring to whoever's on the undercard. They should have some good names on there.
Yo, what did you make of the Ali Act, the whole renewal thing? What did you make of that? Did it cause you concern? Did it clarify things, or what did you make of that part of the conversation?
I mean, I was like kind of in and out, but I came in during the point where you asked regarding international fighters,
Hmm.
and with that, I kind of see that making it tough because it is like you said for them for managers, it's an investment that they make to bring that fighter over, keep them fed, make sure they're training. And if there's no guarantee, like if they're gonna be strictly being paid a certain amount, and that's when they get to that point, it's not gonna be worth it for the managers. So I feel like it is gonna be harder for some, depending on what amount of boxers are in it. It is gonna be hard
Yeah,
for some fighters.
because initially I started thinking like, this could be good for like the international fighters because a lot of international fighters now you slotted automatically to get paid, a good amount. I think once you're in the top, whatever, you get paid over 150, 200,000. There's not many boxers making that. But then I started thinking like, wait a minute, if if your pay is slotted, what's the point of a manager? And if what's the point of a manager, how you gonna get to the country? Who's gonna make sure you get the P1 visa? Who's gonna make sure you fed? Who's gonna make sure you get a strength and conditioning coach? All right, you found one that's gonna do it. How is he gonna make his money back? All
Yeah.
right, so he's not gonna make his money back, and how is that gonna motivate other people to keep investing in? You know what I'm saying? So that's why I was like, I don't know.
The
Like
only
this,
way, the only way is if they themselves scout for talent internationally, and I don't know if that's something they
yeah,
plan
but
to
then
do, if
they're
that's something
acting as
that interests
manager.
them.
No, if that's the case, they're acting as manager and promoter, which you're not allowed.
That is
Yeah, I
right.
don't know. See, it does get complicated when I started thinking about it like that. That's one thing where it did raise a red flag for me because that's near and dear to our hearts,
Yeah,
really.
of course.
You know what I'm saying? Like you imagine all of a sudden, like, yeah, nah, we can't. Nobody's trying to sign Pinales and Alcantara. Why not? They talented. They both won bronze in the last Olympics. What you talking about? It's like, nah, well, no manager wants to invest because of this. But then again, remember, we still gonna have Top Rank around, still gonna have these other organizations around. So they're just another play in the game. So that's another thing where I'm like, maybe you
Yeah,
develop them on both sides.
it'll be good for those current fighters who they don't who aren't really active, who don't get the opportunities. For those fighters, it's definitely a good thing. But
Mhm.
for other fighters who aren't there yet and are still looking to get signed, maybe that's where it'll get a little tougher. So it all depends. Like for someone like Leonel de los Santos, he's like great. That like him
Yeah.
fighting. Like Juan has always said, let's get him on TKO. Let's get him on TKO. I feel like he's somebody who will benefit from that.
Yo,
And
you
not
you know
everybody
what?
will, but he is one.
Yo, but were you on when I was talking about Madison Square Garden becoming a promoter? Oh man, yo, you
Only
hear me?
when. Yeah, I can hear you. You can hear me.
Yeah, go.
Only when you mentioned like if it were to happen and like that you let them fight elsewhere, like in Saudi, and you wouldn't just keep them to
Yeah,
that
no,
specific
but
thing.
look at this. Like Leonel de los Santos is a perfect example, right? Let's say I own Madison Square Garden Promotions, right? So I also own the building and I own MSG, the network, the same network that where the Knicks play. I signed Leonel de los Santos. I'm I'm bringing Leonel de los Santos 4 times a year to fight in Madison Square Garden to develop his Dominican following in Madison Square Garden, guaranteed because I own the building. Guaranteed, if you live in the tri-state area, New York, New Jersey, you know, Pennsylvania, you're gonna have the MSG channel. You're gonna watch. You're gonna watch the same place you watch the Knicks and Carl Anthony Towns. You could watch Leonel de los Santos. You don't think he's someone that would benefit from that? You don't see like how that could become a big thing, like just that alone. That's just one fighter off the top of my head. And that's not to mention, look, like for example, Edwin de los Santos is also a free
Yeah,
agent. Hypothetically speaking, I signed both of those guys. And then I signed Pinales and Alcantara and throw them on the undercard every now and then just to, cross pollinate. Then I signed this dude from the Bronx and have him fight a dude from Brooklyn in Madison Square Garden.
yeah,
And,
like you said, Italians and
yeah,
Irish
Italians,
fighters.
Polish, Irish, and all that, and Puerto Ricans too. Like, we really could do something big here. And again, if a guy doesn't just plateaus and he can only headline, you know, the Hulu theater, then okay, that's fine. As long as he's bringing entertaining fights. But there's gonna be other guys that are just gonna blow up, and it's like, yo, Lionel is way too popular. We got to put him in the big room. All right, well, we own the big room, so
and
we
and
own both. So just throw him
and
over there.
yeah, and other promoters might want to work with it. Oh,
Yeah. Oh yeah.
that
You
dude's
want to
big
bring your
now.
fighter?
He's selling out. He's selling out. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, yeah. You know what? Come, we'll be co-promoted. You'll fight in our building because we got the bigger fighter. Oh, you got the bigger fighter? All right, we're not gonna fight Madison Square. We're gonna send you to Las Vegas, but they're the ones. We're just gonna get our cut as a promoter. A 20%, whatever the standard is, 20% of your purse because you fighting on another person's card. And then if you win, lose, you come back and you stay with us. I think it's a home run. I honestly
Yeah,
think it's
I
a
could see
can't
it.
miss idea. Like I'm gonna I'm gonna reach out to the people from MSG and just to see and
I
I'm
could
willing I'm
definitely
willing to
see
help
that.
in any way possible. You know what I'm saying?
I see where you're coming from. It definitely does make sense. Like
Yeah.
it's something that can be done and you can get a benefit out of it.
No, and it's how do I say? It's something that boxing hasn't delivered probably since the 80s. Consistency. Consistency where you can guarantee somebody a fight, a man. Listen, you're gonna fight 3-4 times a year. You're gonna fight in the same location. All your fights are gonna be televised. Why? How can you guarantee me it's gonna be? Well, I own the network. Or how can you guarantee me that we're gonna fight Madison? Well, I own the building too. That's it. Oh, what if I get a bigger offer over here to fight for here, but I'm signed to you? I'll send you out. Just come back. That's it. So it's just like it's a
Yeah,
win-win for everybody.
yeah,
I honestly only see them taking a loss in the first 1 or 2 years, if that, and then coming back and bringing it back in all profits. You just got to develop first. There's bumps in the road and anything you do. So
yeah,
the
of
first
course.
3 years, bumps in the road, and then
And one
oh,
fighter might not come out how you thought he was, and it is what it is. But you got a few ones who will end up turning into stars and being great fighters.
no, and you'll develop fan favorites, guys who not necessarily are the best, but are entertaining, and you've seen them fight 14 times. because or you go to all the fights in Madison Square Garden, he just happens to always fight. He's 22-8, but man,
Or
you like him
even,
because of his
or even we're
personality.
from the same borough, so I'm gonna just keep going to watch him. Or I
Yeah,
saw
he's
that
from
kid grow up, so I'm gonna go watch him.
exactly. Yo, I went to high school with him. Yeah, you know what? I don't care. He lost his last fight. He fights in Madison Square Garden. I'm going to the next one, and
Yeah,
that's
yeah,
it. And you. So it'll be more localized, man. I feel like people always want to start off when they get into boxing, start off at the top. And that's how, that's how people fail. Like, look at Triller. Triller wanted to go, oh, we're going to put the zone, we're going to put Tio, we're going to do this, we're going to do that. And then it ended up not working out. If you develop your own talent and slowly just have a plan and showcase it to the local people from TV, local TV, which is MSG, local people, which is the people in the street, and you make sure you get people from different boroughs, people from, oh yeah, there's a lot of Puerto Ricans in New York, a lot of Dominicans, a lot of Irish, a lot of Polish, and you just bring them out and you do mix match. Yo, today in Madison Square Garden is gonna be all Puerto Ricans and all Dominicans. Today it's Puerto Rico versus DR Day. The next month is going to be a middleweight day. Everybody's a middleweight. One guy from the Bronx, one guy from Brooklyn, one guy from Long Island, one guy from Jersey, one guy from Philly, one guy from Connecticut, one guy from upstate New York, and it's just going to be all middleweights. Next card is
yeah,
going to be Puerto Rico, Mexico. The next card is going to be Irish versus Italian, Polish versus, whatever. Like, you can really just mix it up, and you
yeah, for
own the
sure.
building, you own the fighters, you own the network. You can just mix and match. And again, you're gonna make mistakes. Man, that the Polish versus this didn't work as well as we did. The middleweights thing kind of flopped. All right, but this did work. This that worked, and you just learn from your mistakes and just keep correcting. And I don't see a possibility where that can fail. To be honest with
Yeah, the platform's already there.
you, they have everything set up.
Yeah,
Everything is set up. They just need the will, the money, and the knowledge. I guess you would need somebody. They would need to hire somebody like me to run it. You know what I'm saying? Where they put the
yeah.
money up, I run it.
Know who to
And
sign, who to look for.
yeah, like, and then I'll create the team. Yo, this guy, he's gonna be the matchmaker. This guy, he's gonna be the this. He's a boom, 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 and then we work as a team. Explain to the bosses what's going on. Boom, and I do the work. That's something I see. Like,
Yeah, network is there, promotion is there. It's all there. You put it during the game on the big screen during a timeout. The whole crowd's looking at it.
yo, and not only that, Paul Anthony Towns Dominican. You telling me if we
Yeah,
do a DR parade card, he's not gonna go and watch?
yeah, for
Juan
sure.
Soto, Juan Soto not gonna go to one Dominican fight. If we do every month, there's a fucking Dominican fight in Madison Square Garden. Juan Soto's not gonna go to one. Nah, I think he might at least go to
Yeah,
one.
they do a DR versus PR event right there. Cat calls Soto. Soto tells Lindor. Diaz goes with Lindor. Like, oh, my Puerto Ricans gonna beat your Dominicans. It's
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
it's
yeah. All love and shit. Like,
yeah.
yo, we solving boxing just here, just talking, bro.
Yeah, it is something that if if they actually think it through and they realize the opportunity it is, it could be something
Yeah.
big.
Nah, you know what else? They're also building a casino. They're trying to build a casino by City Field.
Yeah.
Like, Steve Cohen is being involved. If Madison Square Garden doesn't get involved, if they just start doing boxing there, because they're also gonna have soccer there. They're gonna build in a soccer stadium. If you have
Yeah, they're
soccer,
building a whole
baseball,
new park, a whole new everything.
yeah. If they build soccer, baseball, and then a casino, and then you can add boxing, that could be like a little sports district right there. They also have tennis in that area.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying? Like, and then again, if Steve Cohen is involved, you got SNY that you associated with, and then now for real, you telling me Juan Soto's not gonna go to one game, 2 blocks from his stadium? There's Dominicans fighting and stuff like that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. 100%.
So the market is there. It just we need planning, we need structure, and we need new young ideas. Yo, esta gente lo que hacen la misma vaina todo el tiempo. The same rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat, rinse and repeat. And oh, let's protect this fighter. No, don't protect him. Oh, but what if he loses? You know what you do if he loses? If he lost and he fought his heart out, he just lost because he wasn't the better fighter. You bring him back. And that's it. And then people go, yo, wait a minute. That loss wasn't so bad. I came back. They gave me a good payday because I fought well and I didn't quit. And yeah, I lost, but I fought well and it was a close decision. All right. And they still gave me a bag. I won my next fight. And then they brought me back again. And then, oh shit. And then boxing continues like that. Like if I just feel like it's boxing sometimes overthinks things, man. Sometimes
Yeah,
it's just simple as is just making it work, man.
that is something I like about the UFC. Like you could see a fighter with 8 losses, 10 losses, and he's still main eventer because he's just a fan favorite. People like to see him fight.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like
Right now.
one loss, 2 losses, that it is what it is. As long as you're coming back and giving us good fights, that's all that should matter. But boxing fans sometimes were kind of cruel.
Yeah.
So
It all started. It all started around that Mayweather stuff where he was undefeated, undefeated. To be fair, Mayweather, people like to blame Mayweather. I don't necessarily like to blame him in the sense that it was his fault because he was bragging about his undefeated record, but he was beating top contenders. You know what I'm saying? So you can brag that you undefeated when you fighting Cotto, Mosley, Pacquiao. You know what I'm saying? Canelo. When you fighting guys, even a guy like Robert Guerrero, who at the time was a top welterweight. You got to give him credit. He's fighting undefeated guys. Now other guys are bragging about their undefeated record, but they're not fighting nobody. And it's like,
yeah,
like, all right, you undefeated, but you not. Why haven't you fought Shakur Stevenson, Tank? You know what I'm saying? You undefeated, but why? You haven't fought so and so, and it's frustrating at times. But I think boxing is gonna be okay. A lot of people worried about it because they don't have a TV network deal, but I feel like there's still an appetite for it. There's still an appetite for boxing, and guys like Jake Paul keep believe it or not, keep the sport relevant amongst young people, which is important.
yeah, 100%. Like I have a nephew, he doesn't care for boxing. Oh, is Jake Paul fighting? Yo, Unc, when are we gonna watch the fight? When is he fighting?
Yeah.
Like it does interest them when it's somebody like that, especially now he's fighting Tank because a lot of casuals do know Tank, and then
Mm-hmm.
you combine Jake Paul, Tank, that's a huge audience. And who knows, maybe Calvin Ford said that Tank's in a good headspace right now. He's dedicated right now, so maybe I don't know. This fight makes him hungry again. He has a good performance, or maybe he doesn't have a good performance, and it makes him want to do big things. We never know.
Who do you think is gonna win?
I mean, Tank should win, but that's if they do what Team Tank wants, because they want to do, I think, 8 ounces, and then Jake in 10, because I think they're both going to be in 12.
Okay.
They're both going to be in 12, and Calvin
But
Ford was
he
like,
wants to wear 8 ounces while Jake wears 10s.
yeah,
That's ridiculous.
because he's giving up 4 ounces. He fights in 8s, and he's going to fight in 12.
Nah,
So
that's wild.
I mean, it is an exhibition, so why not?
I mean, we'll see. We'll see, man. See, this is why I don't like this fight, man. I want to see real fights. This isn't like a real fight to me.
Yeah,
And yeah, I'm very disappointed, but we'll see. I'm pretty sure it's gonna do crazy numbers. Hopefully they have a good undercard, and the people from the undercard benefit from La Farandula, benefit from all the people watching just because it's a random matchup that nobody ever thought of. Let's hope. Let's hope.
yeah. The only Jake Paul's been calling him out forever.
Yeah.
Like years ago, he made like a hit list, and Tank was on there. Everyone was
Yeah,
like,
Tank, Canelo was on there. It was
"What?"
a few guys. Yeah, I was like, Tank, you ain't
So
never fighting
it is
Tank.
crazy how he gets what he wants and he gets it done. He knows how
Nah,
to make money. He knows what he's doing.
nah, he knows the internet. That's what it is. He's a
Yeah,
young guy who I think he was on like the Disney Channel when he
yeah,
was a
he
kid.
was. Yeah, he was.
Yeah, so he's been around the media and all that stuff, and he has his podcast, and he's really good at it, and he knows what the fuck he's doing. You know what
Yeah,
I'm saying?
he's invested in Puerto Rican fighters. You got to do a little investment in Dominican fighters. We got to see what's up.
Well, he did put on Henry Cedeno a couple times on his shows. So,
Yeah,
oh, matter of fact, you went to one of Henry Cedeno's
no,
fights.
but that was a Box Lab promotion
That wasn't
event.
Jake Paul.
Nah, that wasn't most valuable promotion. It was
Well,
Box Lab.
he's definitely fought on Jake Paul's
Yeah,
cards.
yeah, and he was
Yeah,
supposed to, and the one in Canada.
yeah. But
I
that
don't
one,
know what happened there.
yeah, I do know, but I'm not allowed to talk about it. But yeah, that's all I'll say. But yeah, no, I mean, hey, I would like to see him get invested in Dominican boxing for
Yeah,
sure.
there's a there's a market there if it's done right. The same way
Yeah,
he's doing it right with Puerto Rico, he could do it with Dominican Republic, and even then, he already has that stable of Puerto Rican fighters. If he invests in Dominicans, he can just match them up, and that's it. Everything's ready.
home run. That's a home run.
Yeah, for 100%. Do it.
He
He's already done business at MSG. He knows how Puerto Ricans come out.
yeah.
Dominicans will definitely show out if it's something like that.
No, and then he has a great relationship with Amanda Serrano. So if he'd be like, "Yo, Amanda, let's promote this a little heavy right quick," you know she's gonna be down. You know what I'm saying? So this is the guy that changed her life.
Yeah, and
Uh,
that's something that could get all the celebrities up. For
yep,
sure. If
yep.
it's big names like that, man, it's Serrano, Jake Paul is the ones putting it on, talking about it. Celebrities are gonna pop out. Dominican stars, Puerto Rican stars. It could be
Hell
big.
yeah, hell yeah, hell yeah, hell yeah. No, man, I love it. I love it. I love that idea. But yo, Javier, let me let you go, my brother. I appreciate you hopping on, my man.
Appreciate you, Joel. Have a good night, man.
Anytime, anytime. Yo, fellas, make sure y'all hit that like and subscribe button. I truly appreciate all you guys watching, especially watching all the way to the end, almost 2 hours in. A lot of good educational things, and this was a good one. This was a good one. I appreciate everybody for watching. Until next time, peace.